Welcome to this episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I am your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. On today's episode, this is going to be a kind of Stout PGH centric episode. We're going to do our year in review, kind of reviewing how Stout PGH did on the competition scene throughout the year 2023, comparing it maybe a little bit to 2022, and what we hope to see happen in 2024. All right, so let's get into it, okay?
Let's.
So, Will, do you want to take us through any stats? Do you want to start in any certain discipline? So, one thing that I would like to do here is I would like to kind of like separate between disciplines, right?
Definitely.
I would like to separate like the MMA team from the Muay Thai or striking team, and also from the Jiu-Jitsu competitors as well. Kind of give everybody their little, nice little box to sit in.
For sure. Where do you want to start? You want to start with
I would say you want to. We could start with jiu-jitsu or striking. I say we save MMA
let's do that.
for the last.
Start us with jiu-jitsu, and we'll
All right, so
go from there.
start a little year in review of 2023 as far as the jiu-jitsu competition team is concerned. So I'm just gonna preface this. The jiu-jitsu competition team is the hardest team to track out of the three competition teams that we have at Stout PGH, due to the fact that there's just so much competition.
Yeah.
I absolutely have not gone through it all, but I know for certain that Stout PGH has had over 200 individual matches this year. Easy.
Dude.
Easy. It's not even hard to gather. We've probably had over 100 different individuals compete, and most of them definitely had at least two matches, if not
More,
6 to
yeah.
8. If you think about your typical tournament, you're getting probably several matches at it. So with all the AGFs, the Fujis, the Grappling Industries, the Nagas, the PBJJFs, with all those, like that circuit of tournament, running around along with our in-house tournament,
Yeah.
right? Then we move out to larger, more major tournaments such as ADCC Opens, ADCC Trials, IBJJF Opens, Majors, Pans, Worlds, things of that nature, and then also super fights.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, just like a tremendous amount of competition. 200 might honestly be underselling it.
I was gonna say, that sounds awfully low.
You know what? I'm going to have a goal for 2024 to try to have a more accurate track of this, which
Best
will
of
be
luck.
that will be a lot of work, to try to track every student's match, or at least have rough outlines of the number of matches, right? Like after Grappling Industries, maybe just kind of run through, which would definitely be time consuming, and be like, okay, in this Grappling Industries we probably are getting 100 matches in a single I'm probably grossly
Yeah, I was gonna say,
underestimating.
I bet you're underestimating it by at least a factor of 2.
Yeah, I'm probably. You know what? I think it's safe to say we probably had 500 jiu-jitsu matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. All right, so yeah. So with that being said, some things that I'm not going to highlight due to, as I believe you guys will understand, the difficulty of highlighting it and following it, is I'm not going to highlight too much those local level tournaments, right? In which the team has done very strongly in. They're great for getting your feet wet with your competition. They're great for testing your jiu-jitsu. I love going and coaching at them. I love watching those levels of competitors compete, and it's just great. And you should be very proud of yourself. And I'm very proud of all of you. I want to make that clear. But there's going to be a higher emphasis on the stuff that, quite frankly, is just easier for me to track.
Yeah.
Such as the super fights in the major tournaments.
Right.
Like the more so for lack of a better
High
term,
level.
the pro level.
Right,
More
yeah.
more like pro-ish level. Yeah. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Now, a lot of this is done off of memory, okay? So off of memory. For example, one of our standout competitors, Claire Butterfield, I know she competed in several invitational style events. I'm not going to remember the names of them. I remember I was on vacation for one, and I was on the beach, and I had my stream going, and I think it was something Piece of Something or Something of Peace Invitational, where she had a really good showing, competing in ADCC Opens in Chicago, where she had a really good showing as well. Other athletes such as Christian Schaefer, who runs rampant with his competition competing. I think his goal was to compete 18 times this year, in the year of 2023, and I'm not sure if he met it, but like even getting close is something. I mean, I can think alone into the month of June where Christian competed in the ADCC Dallas Open. That was kind of a breakout performance for him. He was in the advanced division, so the majority of his matches are against brown and black belts. Him as a young blue belt, and he went 6-2, finishing in what would be fifth place, one step away from the podium. But three out of those 6 wins, all 6 by submission. I believe all by some form of leg lock.
Was that the tournament where he submitted all black belts?
No, well, so that's probably that is the tournament you're remembering, but there were some brown belts and potentially even a lower belt scattered into that, but at least like 3 subs over like black belts that hold quality in my view. So that was a breakout performance for him. And then he came back and we immediately went and did 2 other tournaments. One was the Baddest Blue Belt, which was a Twisted Church event held in Columbus, in which Christian had a really great run of great submissions, and then he lost a decision to pro MMA fighter Jaden Maddox in the semifinals of that. And there was something else squeezed in the June that I can't remember, but I remember, there were 4 weekends in June, and he competed in 3 of them.
That's a lot of matches.
So stuff like that. Some super fights that I would like to take note of. Now I am even missing some super fights. During the time where my daughter was born, there were some super fights going on that I know Justin Carestis had won a match. In a super the event in New Kensington that the Mat Factory puts on the super fights for. We had a number of our athletes in them, but I was in the hospital dealing with a new edition. So I'm a little hazy on the events of that. But Rachel Charest, during some MMA fights in May, down at those New Line Cage fights.
Oh yeah.
She had a grappling super fight in which she won. So we started off that super fight series 1-0, running into the New Ken ones. Put on by the Mat Factory, moving into stout fights. In stout fights, I think we won 7 matches at stout fights. So that's a lot for one night. So putting on a good performance. We've got Sprawl in the Berg performances. Sprawl in the Berg 1, where we went 7-2. Sprawl in the Berg 2, where I believe we went 6-3, 6-4, somewhere in my notes here. They're in here somewhere. But putting on a lot of great performances in super fights as well on the grappling circuit. And then we get into our major tournaments, right? Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail over Worlds because we've discussed Worlds. We had a whole detailed thing, but I will do a tip of the cap to all the competitors, especially the place winners. At the World Championships, Jess Elizabeth, Christian Schaefer, Selena Vith, all coming home with medals from the World Championships. Distant teammates also coming home with medals from the World Championships. Scott Rendos, who's a React BJJ athlete, they're technically, at least they're scoring points for our team because they're registered under Stout for the IBJJF. So thanks for your points, Scott, and things of that nature. And then not to make sure you can't leave it out, Justin Carestis, brown belt, world champ in the gi in the Masters division, submitting his way through the World Championships. 5-0, 5 submissions, didn't give up a single point in Masters 3 brown belt adult or brown belt medium heavyweight division, and rewarded then with getting his black belt here at the end of the year. So strong performances by the jiu-jitsu team, and just like so much that I know I'm missing some, but some are going to come up. Some of these things are going to be brought up like as the episode unfolds. Things will trigger memories, certain stats that involve the MMA team or some things revolving MMA will also bring some other jiu-jitsu competition into the discussion.
But overall, solid year.
Yeah, very solid year, going after some tough tournaments. Oh, the other one in June, we went to the USA Grappling Nationals.
Oh, yeah.
to attempt to qualify to make Team USA for the UWW Grappling World Championships, in which Chris Dempsey of the Mat Factory was successful in getting himself a spot on that team, in which got him to go to Poland and compete in the World Championships, and then to Abu Dhabi to compete in the World Combat Games. So a lot of cool stuff for Chris there. And we were out there. We had Alex Hudick, Christian Schaefer, and Claire Butterfield also competing for spots there, which we weren't able to accomplish any of those, but great experiences nonetheless. And it was a nice, fun trip to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good year by the grappling team. You know, just so much competition. Just love it. Just keep it up.
Hell yeah.
Right
dude.
on. You want to run us through some striking?
I would love
Some
to.
striking specific, not
So-
including MMA.
Not including MMA. So this is strictly Muay Thai and kickboxing fights, which are similar but different. So most of the time, our fighters compete in Muay Thai. That's like what we train for very specifically. It's a little bit more permissive. It includes clinch, depending on what state you're in, elbows, but we'll do some kickboxing fights if it just makes sense, or that's what we can get for whatever reason. So again, strictly on the striking team, total team record, not as good as I'd like. 11-11, 50%
That's
win
solid,
rate.
though. I think we will discuss why that, in my opinion, that's acceptable.
Oh, it's acceptable for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I would like to up it next year.
I wouldn't consider that like a bad year. Like we failed.
Absolutely
Oh man, we
not.
failed as coaches.
First of all, I think what a lot of people who are like into MMA don't really realize is even massive stars in Muay Thai will go on like, 6-fight losing streaks, like kind of, I don't want to say regularly, but it's like not unheard of. And that happens like modern day, the last era, the golden era. I mean, if you look at like any of the greats records, like Saenchai probably has like 40 losses or something.
Right,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Now, why is that, without going too deep into that, like, why is that, like, culturally acceptable, and why is it more likely to happen? Because I would like to chime in why, like, jiu-jitsu records also tend to have a large number of losses as opposed to maybe, like, the shiny MMA records that we're used to seeing.
Or like American pro boxing and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I think for one, you have the fact that strikers tend to, especially like really traditionally in Thailand, but even to a degree here, they fight like all the time. You know what I mean? So for example, we have Brody who's going to fight. We're definitely going to talk about some of his stuff from last year, but this upcoming year he's going to fight on the 20th, and then he's going to fight again at the end of February, right? And that's a tournament, so he might get like 3-4 fights that weekend.
Right.
So
Yeah. So
in
he's gonna
2 months he might get like 5 fights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's pretty common. In Thailand, you'll see guys fighting like, 2 times a month. I mean, that's how you get these guys who are like 17 and they have 300 plus fights, So they're fighting all the time. And if you're fighting all the time, you're going to lose. That brings me to the next point is, especially in that, Thai circuit. And again, even in the States, like you're fighting other good people, or at the very least people who are matched like accordingly with you. So, if you're fighting in Lumpini Stadium, like everyone there is good,
Right.
And if you're fighting in the States, they do a pretty good job of matching up, people who are relatively equal, So, for example, we had like Zach Seipel, right? He fought a guy at GFC, and he lost on paper, but like I could have made a very good argument for why he won. And there was a goofy thing where he got swept, and the ref
They
counted
gave it a standing 8 on a sweep. And
exactly,
stuff,
which makes it an automatic 10-8.
When a standing 8 would go with like a knockdown, not a sweep.
Exactly. So like sometimes goofy stuff like that will happen, or even just, I'm getting away from it, like just close fights, and it's like if you lost 6 close fights in a row, that's very different from you getting knocked out 6 times in a row.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Having a losing record isn't always indicative, especially in striking, of like not being good.
Yeah.
The other reason why I think, and maybe we want to touch on this a little bit later, but when we were discussing our development for our MMA guys, sometimes we'll use striking
as part of that development.
Exactly. And like, oh, we're going to dip our toes in the water. And so winning isn't necessarily the end goal there, right? It's just getting that experience.
Yeah.
So not that we're not trying to win, and not that we're putting people in who aren't prepared, but like we're not protecting that record in the way that you would in, again, American
like maybe
boxing.
MMA, yeah.
Or pro
Yeah,
MMA.
pro MMA, where you're like, oh man, a loss could really like
Yeah.
ruin you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So So again, I would like to increase that win rate next year, but I'm pretty happy with having was that 22 total
22
fights.
fights.
I mean, I remember.
Which, I mean, like, they're not as easy to get either.
Right.
You
I mean,
know,
they're
like,
getting easier, but yeah, they're
yeah,
not
they're
as
thankfully
easy.
they're getting easier with a couple new promotions putting on the shows. But like, I mean, like, even within like what 100-mile radius from Pittsburgh, how many opportunities do you have to fight a year? Right now,
Not a ton.
just one. Oh, I guess. Well, where's how like.
We've got
So if-
scout fights.
and then-
OCL puts on some fights.
Yeah, but like, okay, so I'm saying like, okay, so now we're talking Columbus. So next goes Columbus, except for GFC, which is in State College.
State College, yeah.
So literally, like within like, if you go Center City and you're like, hey, an hour circle, an hour drive circle around, it's just
I think it's just scout fights.
style fights, which
Yeah.
are once a year, hopefully twice a year moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All you promoters out there, come to Pittsburgh.
we want more Muay Thai. We want more Muay Thai.
I've got plenty of fighters for you. Come to Pittsburgh. But anyways, yeah. So 50% win rate. Like to improve that, but not too bummed about it. And like I said, we had both Muay Thai and K1 fights or kickboxing. Same thing included in that. Something that was kind of like a stretch goal for me this year, but I wasn't sure we were gonna make happen, is we got an amateur title in striking.
Tell me more about it.
Young Brody, he won a K1.
Brody Harris.
Brody Harris. He won a K1 180-pound title for USKA, which was interesting because that was also the first amateur kickboxing fight in PA to not have headgear and shin guards.
So the
super
highlight
cool.
looks really cool because
The highlight looks awesome.
You're not looking all bulkied up with your headgear and shin guards.
Yep.
It looks like
It looks legit.
a legit thing. Yeah.
And there's pros and cons. Like if you're gonna be fighting every month, you don't want your shins too bruised up and everything. But
No. There's no cons to no shin guards.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like I understand why people say that, but like if you plan on going pro, like come on, dude, we gotta be slinging shins.
No. I'm so anti shin guards. I can't even begin to go down the rabbit hole of how anti shin guard I am for amateur MMA.
Dude, even kickboxing, I think you should go.
Ridiculously anti shin guard for amateur MMA.
I'll second that for striking as well. We can dive into that another time. But anyways, without going too deep on Brody's stuff, we're going to talk about some of his accomplishments later. But yeah, we won that was Stout's first striking title. So pretty cool. Over the course of the year, we had 15 different fighters who fought, 8 different fighters who won, 9 different fighters who made their striking debut. We had fights in 5 different promotions. And this brings me into the next part. We want to talk about some standout records. Let's start with Brody because we already started talking about him a little bit. So Brody is now 5-0-1.
Yep.
And his
5 wins,
only
0
draw,
losses, and a draw.
the only fight he didn't win was against a guy who is now like I think like 9-0-1 or something like that, and fights
Dang.
a lot in the Warriors
Now,
Cup.
was that each of their first fight too?
No, that was I think Brody's second, and it might have been that guy's first
Oh
fight.
man, how cool would that have been? If both their first fights, they fought they're so good, they fought each other to a draw, and then they just never lost
Yeah.
to anybody
Yeah.
else. Like, man, what are the odds that we happen to get matched up first? Like, you
Right,
know?
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that fight was in Warriors Cup, which is like a really big promotion. It's in New York. I think Brody was like 19 or maybe 20 at the time. And I think it was his second fight. So for him to step up, go from wearing gear to no gear, massive environment, fighting a dude who is very high quality.
Yeah.
And the reason it became a draw was because, they're fighting in the first round, relatively close. Brody might have been losing the round. It doesn't really matter. But Brody dropped him at the end. Very decisively dropped him. 10-8 round right there. And then he lost the next 2. So it was legitimately a draw.
Okay,
But
yeah.
he's so much better now than then. It was a cool fight.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so Brody overall 5-0-1. This year he went 3-0. He won the USK 180-pound K1 amateur title. Again, first kickboxing fight in PA history with no gear. Super cool. He had wins in both Muay Thai and kickboxing, which is pretty cool. He had a win by head kick KO, which was awesome because it was 10 seconds into the second round.
Yeah.
And in between rounds, I was noticing the guy he was fighting kept doing this, right? And his
Yeah.
hands were moving up and down at a fairly regular rhythm. So I'm giving Brody some advice. And like right at the end of that, minute that I had with him, I was like, by the way, you can get like whether you feint or you just time his hands moving up and down. Like I think a head kick's there because Brody's real good at head kicks.
Yeah.
And he goes, which side? And I was like, I think right. Nah, Brody knew. He gets out there 10 seconds, just sat down on his back leg, whipped his
Left
front
head
leg
kick, yeah.
up, boom, left head kick KO.
Nice.
Dude, incredible.
Good stuff. So good coaching and adjustment by fighter.
Well, exactly. It's like I did objectively tell him the right thing, but he knowing what was like in front of him.
Yeah, he wasn't just roboted. He
Exactly.
he could take the advice that you gave him and make educated decisions with it.
Exactly. Best of both worlds.
Good
It's
job.
Incredible. He had a win by clinch knee KO, which is interesting because that should have occurred in the first round. It technically was a second round KO. This actually fight is worth kind of talking about a little bit. So first off, the guy he fought, I forget his name, something Romano, I believe. He was ranked number 1 in MMA in PA as an amateur welterweight, and number 2 ranked lightweight MMA fighter. And I believe he was also ranked in like Florida or some other state. So like clearly really good. And Brody is fighting this guy. He crashes into him. Brody clinches him up. This is obviously one of the Muay Thai fights, and it's just crushing this dude with knees, right? I think he dropped him twice in the first round, and the ref was Keith Peterson. You might see him in the UFC
no
and
nonsense.
Stuff. No nonsense. And so Brody clinches him up again, fires down on him, drops him a third time. Keith calls it a low blow. I was very sure it was not. I was like, it wasn't, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm screaming from the side. Doesn't matter. Makes it to the end of the round. We go into the second round. Same deal. Brody clinches him up and just crushes this kid with knees.
Through, yeah.
And boom, that's it. TKO. Maybe a KO, I don't know. But Keith Peterson told us afterwards, he was like, the only reason that he was like, listen, dude, I wasn't sure if it was low or not, but I had to do something. I was like, maybe that wasn't the right choice, but like, I get it. Also,
Yeah.
fun fact about that fight, the fire alarm started going off like right in the middle or right at the end of the first round. And I was like, oh, are they going to stop the fight? Nope. Right through.
Right through the fire alarm.
Fire
Good.
alarm's going
Love
off.
to hear it.
Brody KOs him. Beautiful. So
To a burning ring of fire.
So that was an awesome fight. And also, Brody's only 21 years old.
Yeah, man. Big future.
That's just wild.
Yeah.
The weight he's at, I see like a very clear path for him to go and do, big things. His experience so far, it's not like he's only won in one way. So like just this year alone, he has a clinch knee KO.
So a clinch KO, a head kick KO, and
a dominant decision
yeah.
in that title fight.
Yeah.
And that's just this year. If you look at some of his other finishes, he finished one guy with his hands. I think he finished another guy another way. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But like very diverse skill set. Big year for Brody. The other standout record here is Jesse the Dr. Sadu.
Oh yeah.
He went 2-0 and had one win by TKO.
So he's 3-0 overall now.
3-0 overall. This year he went 2-0.
Yeah, 2023 2-0.
And one of those wins was by TKO. I believe also
Clinch?
from clinch knees. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I'm recalling clinch.
Yeah. And maybe this wasn't this year. No, I think it was this year. One of the guys he fought, I believe, is a pro MMA fighter now.
No, that was his debut.
Okay.
So that was stout fights of the prior year. Anthony Jurgel.
You're right.
He either went 5-0 or 6-0 amateur MMA, and at my last check, he was 1-0 pro. I watched him win his pro debut in Combate Global, I think it was, which is like impressive. Like so really good fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I see Anthony at major jiu-jitsu competitions. I want to say that he was a Pan Am finalist. I believe he took second at Pans. I'm not sure. And I saw him at Worlds, but I didn't follow up.
Wow. So yeah, impressive competition. So
Yeah.
good job, Jesse. So yeah, that's those are all the notes I've got for the striking team. I think we had a pretty solid year, and I think we can improve for the next.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, great job.
What do you think? Should we dive into the MMA team?
Yeah, let's dive into the MMA team. That's probably us as that's our primary focus as coaches. Is MMA. I mean, I do have a very heavy not that we don't have heavy focuses on our disciplines, respective discipline. But ultimately I identify myself as an MMA fighter, so
That's our main thing.
yeah, it's my main thing, right? I give it 51%, 49% jiu-jitsu team.
There
Right
you
on.
go.
All right, cool. So, this year, the year 2023, the team went 21-9. Now, that could be looked at as a step up from last year or a step down from last year. So in 2022, we went 15-4, right? So better winning percentage. And I honestly, I look at like 2022 as like freshman year, you know? Like that's the way that I look at it. Like that's when I felt like, you know, me personally, I started buckling down on like being a coach, you know, like 2020 basically didn't exist. 2021, I was kind of like half in, half out, still like licking my wounds from being sad about my own MMA career and things like that. So 2022 is where we really started to get the ball rolling. We went 15-4 as a team, but a lot of our fighters that year were in their like freshman season. You know, they're at the beginning of their career, right? Won some awards last year. I'm not quite sure of them all. I believe Vasoki won Knockout of the Year.
Yep.
Lucas won Newcomer of the Year. Newcomer of the Year. Speaks to like rookie season or freshman year. And then luckily that was good enough for us as a team to earned us Coaches of the Year and get Stout PGH Coaches of the Year as far as 247 awards, and then Stout PGH Gym of the Year in 2022 off the back of that 15-4 record, right? But as I said, kind of like freshman season. Right now we're moving on to like sophomore year. Everybody's taking a step up in competition. Just like any sport, like, you know, we have a new crop of rookies that have come in and have been added in, like making their debuts and stuff like that. But now we're starting to get some upperclassmen, so to speak.
Yep.
You know, and with that comes tougher fights.
Absolutely.
Right. And I made a mention of that last year. So we did the 247 podcast last year when we were receiving our awards. Will and I did it together as guests, and I said, I was like, you know, it's going to be tough to replicate because we're going to go up in competition this year, right? Like debut year, you know, like sometimes you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
You know, your debut could be against the next GSP.
Yeah.
Like GSP was 0-0.
Yep.
You don't find out that that's the next GSP till afterwards.
Yep.
Right? There's no way we know, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're going to accept the fight against this 0-0 guy? Yeah, sounds good. Okay, what's his background? He has some of this, some of that. Okay, cool. Next thing you know, he's the next GSP. And you're like, oh, sorry, bud. Bad luck. You know, things like that. So yeah, the step up in competition, some notable. 21-9, nothing to scoff at. That's a 70% win rate.
And also, I think what's important too to talk about is like a lot of our guys who, you know, were gaining more experience, we're still amateur. And if you guys didn't see our episode where we discussed like how we, you know, progress our fighters, like as you get to the end of your amateur career, we try to find someone who can beat you. Like, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So I think that's honestly very solid.
Yeah.
Given...
And with a lot of people, a lot of our sophomores looking at turning pro, right? It's like, hey, like if you think that you can go pro, shouldn't you be taking challenging amateur fights? Should you, if you're feeling like, hey, coach, I'm ready to go pro, you think you should be afraid of other amateurs? Let's take some challenging fights. You know what I mean? Here goes something like, don't be afraid of a loss as an amateur. Here goes a little known fact. I turned pro off of an amateur loss. I lost my last amateur fight. Still time to go pro.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it was a great challenge. I took a challenging fight. You know, came out on the other end of it, the wrong end of it. Still got the value of the fight, right? It was a close fight. If my hand would have got raised, wouldn't have changed the value that I got out of the fight. You know,
exactly.
The result was irrelevant. It was the value of the fight.
Exactly.
Is what helped me. So
because that's what an amateur career is for. It's development.
Yeah,
you know?
Development. No, obviously you need a certain amount of wins and losses to be eligible
to
move to the pro level, but you know, there's
and obviously you'd like to win fights, but that's not the goal at the end of the amateur career necessarily.
Exactly. Yeah. So to speak to the rise of the level of competition, in 2022 we had 0 title fights. Pretty sure 0 title fights. Whereas this year in 2023, 8 of our 30 fights, coming in for just underneath a 30% of our fights, were for titles. In which, in those title fights, we had a 6-2 record. Notably, Lucas bringing home 2 of those titles. So yeah, some other cool stats. Here goes one that I'm particularly fond of. We had 18 different fighters compete for us this year.
Yeah.
So this is like a feather in a coach's, it's just something I'm proud of. I'm proud of as a coach that I was able to help 18 people step and have a goal of wanting to fight in mixed martial arts, and I was able to help them achieve that goal of fighting in mixed martial arts and facilitate them to feeling confident enough, good enough to step in the cage, to compete as their goals dictated. And out of those 18 fighters who fought, we had 15 wins from those 18 fighters.
15 different fighters.
Yes, 15 different fighters who won. 15, yeah. So, there's something to be said about both ways, right? Like, you get a couple studs who are running out some fights, you might be able to pull out a pretty good record off of a few hammers. You get 4 hammers, and they all fought 4 times that year, and they all went 4-0. Man, 16-0, you're looking good, which is absolutely an incredible accomplishment.
For sure.
But, in a different way to look at it, having several different fighters capture a win, speaks to, again, like the ability to help many, you know. And just on top of that, one of the side notes that we don't have written down, but we have a win this year in every weight class.
Oh wow! I didn't even think about that.
Yep, I didn't notate that, but yeah, we have a win at 125. We have a win at 125, wins at 135, 145, 155, 70, 85, 205, and heavyweight. So cool. We've got a win in every male weight class, and then in the female weight class, we have wins in the 135-pound division.
Britt won a 45-pound title.
Yeah, but it was at 140. They both weighed in at 138, and it was just because it was day of weigh-ins.
Yeah. We'll take that as a 35.
They both fight 35s.
I think what's cool about that is, like, you have different, like, there's pros and cons to having such a massive team, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the pros are, if we're running, various types of practices, or like someone needs to get ready and we have like pad holders for everyone, like there's a lot of pros. The cons are it's hard for us to get individual time with these guys. So like I'm super proud of this stat because it's difficult to get one fighter to, do well. For us to get, 18 different fighters to fight, like, man.
18 different fighters stepped in the cage this year for Stout. And honestly, maybe, let's just talk about them. Technically 19, and also that brings us up one more win if we're going to include Hugo.
Right.
Let's just briefly talk about Hugo.
So Hugo, he had one of the wins on the striking side of things.
But he had an MMA win as well.
He also had an MMA win, but that was for the Pitt MMA team because he's a student there.
Yeah, like the University of Pittsburgh.
Right. So, we're not going to count that as one of our wins. We weren't cornering him. Again, it was for Pitt. It wasn't necessarily for Stout.
Right.
But he does train.
He does train with us, and we are very proud of him for that win. Yeah, and it was a really great performance. So I definitely don't want to leave him out on that.
Definitely not.
So we're really pumped about that. Way to go, Hugo. So that brings us back around to like talking about the feather in the coach's cap, right? Mm-hmm. So, I want I feel like some people might be like, oh, the coaches, like, they shouldn't, like, be proud of themselves in a way, right? It should be about your fighter, right? But I'm going to tell you, you want your coach to be proud of himself or herself, right?
Dude.
Especially depending on it may depend on the type of person that they are, right? And me, and I'm assuming at this point in time, with this being episode 8, all of you probably personally know me. I don't think we're reaching people who don't know us. Every single person who's watching this right now, if you're, watching this, you probably personally know me, right? And that's what like drives me, right? Like, you know what I mean? When I like it helps me set goals, and those goals, help me like with my motivation. My motivation helps me with my discipline, and like, just my morale. Mm-hmm. And I'm an emotional I'm driven by emotion.
Yep.
Right. So if I'm in a like fired up, good mood, we're gonna make some progress. That's me operating on all cylinders. That's when you're gonna get the best out of me. If I'm in a bad mood, I'm still gonna do my best. But like, you know, it's like you put some bad gas in the car. It's not firing on all cylinders. So
Hold on. Let me add on to this because I think this is a really good point. Your coaches should be like confident in themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, man, we could dive down a rabbit hole, try to keep it short, but like this is something I've spent a lot of time thinking about is the idea of like, I kind of view it as a continuum between like cocky, confident, like not confident and just like weak, right? That kind of continuum, right? Like it's okay. Like we kind of celebrate fighters being in that confident, maybe even drifting into cocky range. Why not coaches, dude? Like, I think humility is overrated in martial arts. I think it's important, but I think it's very overrated.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm into humility, especially for coaches. Like, I'm not going to be out.
To a degree, yeah. But,
I'm not going to be dissing no coaches.
oh, certainly not.
Unless they're beefing with me, like I'll beef back. But I'm not going to be talking ill on any coaches, or on opposing fighters. You know what
definitely
I
not.
mean? Absolutely not.
No, this has nothing to do with
But
other coaches. I'm just saying, like,
I still feel like I should, like, be proud of these accomplishments, and I feel like people might be like, well, you didn't do them, your fighters did. You couldn't have done it without your fighters. Well, I like to think that they wouldn't have done it as easily without me.
exactly.
You know, and if that's what gets me fired up to provide a good service to my fighters, and that's what it does, and that's what it is.
And that's my point. I think that this stat kind of speaks to the fact that we're doing something right developmentally if we had 18 different fighters.
I'm also
fight
going to
this year.
spin this stat
Spin
away from it. So real quick for the fighter. So the fact that we have been able to produce wins in every weight class speaks to the versatility of us as coaches, right?
Because they're different games.
They're different, dude. Different fighters, different games. And I would say that my strength as a coach is probably lightweights. I'm probably a better lightweight coach than a heavyweight coach, right? So my upper weights, like, they challenge me, right? Like, because it's a different game, and maybe it's because it's more foreign from my own personal game, you know? Whereas, like, I find, you know, I was a lightweight. I find coaching lightweights, featherweights, bantamweights, and flyweights to be, like, super easy. You know, it's like, so, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I just have a better understanding on the way the game is fought at that level than I do at the higher level or at the higher weight classes.
Right.
You know, so I like that we were able to get wins in every weight class. You know, a little bit of a feather in the cap, because if you look at like wrestling, a lot of times, like on a wrestling coaching staff, you have like your head coach, and then you have your smattering of individual coaches or assistant coaches, and most of them, like, you know, like, oh, like this guy, oh, he coaches the lightweights, he coaches the heavyweights, he's
Exactly.
kind of got the middleweights, like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And it's just like an identity thing. So just to be able to be versatile, you know, and I'm clearly, I feel like I'm better in one area than the other, but to have accomplishments in all the weight classes was something that I felt proud of.
Yeah. I agree.
Now, with that being said, having 15 different fighters win and 18 different fighters compete this year, and there's 2 of us,
Yeah.
right? So speaks to the team.
And the other coaches too.
The other coaches, so we're going to shout out the other coaches, but also speaks to the team.
Yep.
Meaning, like, dude, like, you think, like, I'm on all the, like, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yep.
You know? Anna, I coach the jiu-jitsu team too.
Yep.
And, like, you know, like, I've got a young family, right? Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, so, like, the team, you know, like, the team being a team.
Yes.
You know, getting the work in with each other, getting extra work in with each other, holding mitts for each other, maybe sparring a certain style for each other, drilling certain things for each other, showing up at off hours for each other.
Yes.
Right? So that's some big teamwork there. And let's shout out some of
Well, hold on. Along the lines of the team, like one thing that I'm, you know, really trying to ingrain into our team, and I think we're doing a good job of this, is that I try to train our fighters not just as fighters, but also as coaches. That's why I'm so big on, like, you have to understand the why behind all these drills we're doing and why we're doing X, Y, and Z, and you have to understand the game. And that way, like you said, like, guys are holding pads for each other. They're able to correct themselves, right? They're able to get better without
There
my
it is.
direct supervision. Because, like, I can't hold pads for every single one of our fighters every time they need a pad session leading up to a fight, right? I
Yeah.
would like literally die.
Yeah.
So like, it's not just like me and the other coaches. There's a whole nother layer of coaches that is the fighters themselves. And like, I'm really happy about that development wise.
In my experience, anything I coach is it's a tool that reinforces it for me, right? Like coaching has made me better at competing and applying whatever
Exactly.
discipline that we're attacking there. And what you said is like having your fighters know the why, and like I'm a
Yes.
big why guy.
Yes.
Right. I'm probably the biggest why. I'm like I can't teach a move without telling you why are we. So we're gonna put our left shoulder here and our right elbow here. Here's why.
Exactly.
Right? Like I could just leave it at left shoulder here, right elbow here. Now we're gonna circle to the legs, drive the knee across the belly, keep your heel to your butt, slap the mat with the foot to clear over, and then tuck under the hips, right? Or I can tell you why. Left shoulder in the face so they can't turn in, right elbow across the far side hip so they can't hip away, drive the knee across the belly, heel to the hips, heel to the butt so we don't get caught in the half guard, slap the foot to the mat, making sure that we're clearing outside the thigh, tucking underneath to make the ensuing mount escape attempts difficult. Boom. Now, you know why we do these moves. It's going to help you remember it a little better. And speaking to you and Brody, make an adjustment if the move's not going exactly as planned.
Yep.
Hey, which side? I think the right. Out there, recognized, saw the left, made the adjustment. Why was he able to make the adjustment? Because he knew why. He wasn't like, oh, Coach Will said there's a head kick open. And he said it's the right head kick. I'm going to throw the right head kick. No, he's like, why does Coach Will think that there's a head kick open? Oh, because these guys moving his hands in a certain pattern and he's reacting to strikes in a certain predictable pattern. Okay, ooh, it's actually on the left side because I know what he was seeing, what he was looking for. And just like in the corner, the side, it's like, oh, I think it was the right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But he was able, due to understanding the why, he was able to make the in-fight adjustment, which resulted in a knockout.
Exactly.
You know, so some value for the why.
And also something that I think that's really important about you specifically as a teacher, and one of the reasons why, you know, I think that I would say my jiu-jitsu abilities are slightly higher than they should be given how little I train.
Yeah.
Which was going to change this year, but is because you and I talk jiu-jitsu a lot and you explain the why. So like, you know, I have my muscle memory from, you know, training jiu-jitsu, but then like you can tell me something and I'm like, oh, I could do this, but I also know why I'm doing this. So I have to trap that arm. And when you show things, you're like, hey, like I'm going to take this hand and do this. Like it's very clear. You show visually exactly what's happening. You explain it very clearly. And you like, you know, if I'm like, hey, Mike, do this to me real quick, I can feel it. So you're hitting all those different, you know, learning styles, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And you do all of those at a very high level and you'll like, you stack those very well. So like, yeah, dude, I think development wise,
Yeah.
you're killing it.
Yeah. And just in case it seems like it's coming across a little arrogant, like I think I'm this awesome teacher, the why came about out of insecurity. Right? It's like, why would you believe I know what I'm talking about? Who am I? What have I done? Why would you believe that if I say put your left shoulder here and right elbow here, why would you listen? Well, here goes why, because this is what they do. So it stemmed out of like a level of insecurity, you know, and then it had happy progress behind it, so it stuck around.
Right on.
Right on. All right, so let's shout out some of the coaches.
You want to start on your side?
No, let's start on your side.
All right. Big shout out to Josh Polens. If you're watching this and you're maybe like in the MMA world, you might not, you know, be super aware of like who Josh is, but Josh came on as kind of like the, like, what would you say? Like assistant head coach, I guess.
Yeah.
And you know, he's always in the corner with me at, you know, big striking fights. Josh had trained previously in New York, and came in with a great skill set. But then he just like really understood our system, like, very quickly, and he understood the why behind everything. And a lot of the stuff that we do in our striking system is like fairly complex, and he got it all super fast. Also turns out Josh's day job is that he's a teacher, so not only does he understand all these things, but he's also really good,
Skilled at teaching.
Exactly. Mix that with the fact that he's a really good athlete. He was a college basketball player, and again, he can do all these things, and is a great pad holder and drill guy and everything. He's really helped to elevate our team like drastically, and he's worked with all the striking guys. He works with some of the MMA guys, And it's just great because I know that if I'm running a practice and I need to focus on one thing, I can be like, hey, make sure you're watching this or whatever. And it's basically the same thing as having me watch, you know?
Yeah.
And he gives great, you know, advice to all of our guys. He'll tell me about things that he'll notice in training. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we totally need to address that. And just, yeah, been a huge help on the team. So big shout out to Josh. Also, like, just at our other gyms, like, we have
Yeah.
Vince teaching striking. Like a lot of you guys.
Whoa, whoa,
like,
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on, Vince. I get Vince.
you get Vince too, but Vince is a
I
great
get
striking
Vince.
coach too. Like he's
okay.
really helped with our guys there. Jonas produces great strikers.
Yeah, I mean the influx of Zealy fighters.
You know, we're gonna talk about Max
Off of
Terrell
Jonas and
later,
Rocky.
and
Yeah.
you know, like I'd love to say that I helped him, and I hope I did a little bit, but like Jonas really,
Yeah, Jonas primary.
yeah, made
Yeah.
that striking come out. So, you know, it takes a whole army. Our team is massive. I couldn't even start to like name everyone. I mean, Ty teaches a ton of great classes. You know, he's a fighter and a coach. God, no, I hope I'm not missing anyone. I'm definitely missing people. We have so many like coaches and people who help out. But especially this past year, Josh has really, you know, stepped it up and helped out a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you see like these awards, it's not just me and Mike. Like we have an army of
Oh
coaches.
yeah, no, it's not even close to just us. So more so on my side, you know, and like this is just for like the MMA team. If I were to shout out all the jiu-jitsu coaches, we would have to put it in fast forward because we got so many, and a lot of them are going to be talked about when we get to some other events and things like that. So, you know, we've been receiving help from Vince Meng, as you have been brought up. Vince, a fighter in his own right, came in primarily as a striker. He had a boxing background, went 2-0 MMA, decided to take a break, focus on his jiu-jitsu, shore it up a little bit. Next thing you know, he's a world competitive brown belt.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I just do jiu-jitsu now. Just like really fell off the deep end of jiu-jitsu. Since the team has grown so much, you know, he's been coming down, helping run practices, getting extra eyes, especially on the grappling portion of it, although he can equally help with the striking. But the grappling portion of it, to kind of like give me that like extra hand as Josh Polance is doing for you, and the extra set of eyes. And also recently we've gotten Ryan Golembuski,
Yeah, Ryan 3K.
3K. So we had him run Tuesday night's practice. He's a recent addition. Ryan, brown belt in jiu-jitsu, was a good high school wrestler. One of my favorite things about Ryan though is his continued education in wrestling, right? Like this dude, I bet you he would tell you he's learned more about wrestling technique in the last 5 years than he did in the previous 20.
That's wild.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like continued and always messaging each other back and forth, video clips, look at this, da da da. Getting every time we see each other, it's hands on, like yeah, blah, and stuff like this. So really glad to have Ryan on, giving us another really great
Stacking on with Ryan.
eye.
I think there's a couple things I want to say about. First off, Ryan just like brings really good vibes.
Some good intensity.
Intensity.
Some old school wrestling intensity.
And that's, you know, like that's something that I look for in coaches, you know, who help, right? Is like, you know, years ago he's been off traveling the world for a little bit, but you know, we had Chris Brookins, and you know, like he stylistically is a little bit different from me as a coach, and I really like that because he fills in the holes. So like to have someone like Ryan, because like I'm very calm as a coach, you know, and just to have other coaches come in and bring that intensity, I love that. Great vibes from Ryan. The other thing about Ryan, this dude loves wrestling so much. He does it like every day at like 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30 in the morning, and the next thing you know, he's like, yeah, it's basically turned into another fight team thing because it's like mainly like a lot of the fighters are just showing up, like the ones who have day jobs can't train at the daytime practices. They're showing up at 5:30 in the morning, getting there wrestling, and with Ryan, which is why I'm extra excited that he was able to make time for us and help with the fight team, because now I'm actually with Ryan one day a week, right? So like, you know, we can like meet and then we separate, and he does his practices, I do my practices, but we kind of like, it's easier to stay on the same page, you know, and the fighters, it's important for the fighters to see us together as well. So like, it's just really opening up tremendous amount of opportunities, and with an ever-growing team, we need it, and I'm very appreciative of it, and I'm very excited also because, like, you know, one of my favorite things about coaching is I'm doing it with all my friends.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, outside of our job as coaches, everybody we just taught, we're friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like we do most of what we do involves fighting because that's pretty much
just
all
what we
that's
do.
going on. But like, we're willing to do other things.
Yeah.
If I had to do something else, I want to do it with you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So a lot of fun stuff. And last but certainly not least, most likely most important, Warren Stout. Who you got to earn your way to Warren, brother.
You sure do.
I tell you what, you earn your way to the top. Warren, who has made all of this possible. Warren, who has been my coach and my mentor throughout the entirety.
Hold on. We got to start with something because I realize some people don't know this. Our gym, Stout PGH, Warren Stout.
Dude, there is a hilarious story that just occurred recently, and I wouldn't believe it, but Warren told it to me.
Lay it on me.
Dude, so somebody was like taking a class from Warren, and Warren's a 3rd degree black belt, eligible for his 4th degree now.
Straight from Henzo too.
Yeah. I happened to be lucky enough to be there for when he got his black belt. I got my blue belt the same day he got his black belt from Henzo up in New York, and I was so like about my I'm not in a bad way, but I was like, oh, I think I'm getting my blue belt, right? Like so like childish, excited and stuff. And then I got my blue belt, and I feel like I was just like sitting there like looking at it. And then they were like called Warren for his black belt, and like I was like, it never crossed my mind. And I'm just like, wow. And like all of us, like there was a group of us. It was Lance Thompson, who owns React BJJ, Luke Burdett, Logan Stout, right? And then and a handful of others. We're up there for it. Oh, Scott Rendos, who's like Lance's an instructor, but Lance's was up there with us. He's a brown belt, 3-time world medalist at brown belt. Yeah. So we're all up there, and like I feel like we were all just like, wow. Like I just got my blue belt. Lance is like, wow, I just got my purple belt. And like they're like Warren, and we're just like, oh shit. You just like you feel so bad, but it was innocent.
Right, yeah.
It was innocent. So I was there.
Also, you were like 20 or something.
Yeah. So I was able to witness him get his black belt. I kind of facilitated all his degrees on his belt as well. So like, when it's time to get your degree, right? Like he's running our school.
Yeah.
So like his instructors, you think they're like, man, it's been 3 years, right? No, like, so I'm like, hey, Daniel. I'm like, Warren's been a black belt for over 3 years now. You know that? Oh yeah. Oh brother, I got it. Boom. Then we're up at Henzo's. Henzo, this one's really important because it needs to be a 2nd degree black belt to give out another black belt.
Right.
So, dude, I was hunting his 2nd degree, brother. I was hunting it. So, yeah. So I'm like, Henzo, Warren's been a black belt over 6 years now. And then Sean Williams, Warren's been a black belt 9 years now. And then your 4th degree is after your 14th year. So, yeah. I can't remember why we went down that.
You said you had a funny story.
Oh, the funny story. Yeah. So someone's like, oh, wow, you got a lot of stripes on your belt, like his black belt. And he goes, yeah, 3rd degree black belt, it just means you're getting old. Like, that's what he says. He's like, it just means you're getting old. Because once you get your black belt, your degrees are, as long as you're still actively involved in the sport, your degrees are by time. Whereas to your, up until your black belt, it's based off of your coaches, you and your coaches relate, like the opinion that your coach has of your skill level, right? It's not, you could be a blue belt for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, purple belt for
8 years maybe.
Yeah. It doesn't, it just on your progress. You ain't getting it till you get it.
Yep.
So they're like, wow, who gives you your stripes, Mike? And Warren's like, no. Actually, it's the opposite. And so like, dude, so I'm dying. I am loving every second of this when he's telling me. I'm like, oh my God, it's like better than Christmas. I'm like, this is so sick. Because like we always do the jokes, like, right? Like when Warren leaves, we like, oh, Wilkins PGH, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, Warren, Warren's out of town for 2 weeks. Change the signs, like, So, dude, it was so funny. And then someone was like, it's really nice Mike lets you name this after you. And we was like, what is happening? Like if it wasn't Warren telling me it, like if it was anybody else, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I don't believe that actually happened, right? Like I was like, dude, that is amazing. So obviously, obviously I was in my glory right there, living it. I was living it. Oh my god. But yeah,
So okay, but yeah,
You
for
gotta
those of
work
who
your
don't
way-
know,
you gotta
Warren
work your way
Stout
up to
is the one who
Warren.
started it all. He's the reason
Yeah.
we have 4 massive gyms. He's the one who gave us the opportunity to be
Yeah.
in this position.
Yeah,
Warren
dude.
is a master splinter. He's the head
Oh,
dog.
dude, yeah. So you got to work your way up to him. You know, you got to earn you got to get through us. You got to earn your attention. You know, like that's what he has us for, right? Like we are assigned to, you know, do the coaching, right? But like, you can make it to a level where one's like, let me get in on this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah. So we have a couple athletes who have piqued his attention
Interest.
enough to, you know, sacrifice, like, and he's super busy.
Yeah.
So to sacrifice like extra time, like, oh, you got these guys this good? Let me see these guys.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So you got to work your way.
One
to
last
Warren.
shout out to Warren, because obviously Warren has like taught you a ton of jiu-jitsu and stuff, and you know, you might look at my side and be like, oh, you know, like Warren didn't teach you striking. Not personally, but also Warren put me in a lot of positions where I could. Right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, when I was 24 years old, Warren sent me to Thailand, and I trained
Yeah.
there for like almost 5 weeks. I fought there.
Yeah.
You know, like that was because of him. Warren has taken me up to Henzo, Maine, and he's, you know, got me instruction there. And I did a private with Jamie, who is
Yeah.
GSP's coach. Warren sent me out to CSA multiple times to do their
Yeah.
coaches clinic. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Warren's done a lot for us.
Yeah, dude. Big dog. Big dog right there. Yeah. It does a lot for me, like a lot. Like, you know, not just like jujitsu, but like my wrestling is like 10 times better because of him. My like coaching is good because of him. You know, just like pretty much like just like carrying through life was a little bit modeled after him too.
Yeah.
Like I was like, hey Warren, how old were you when you had your kids? Boom, I had my kids same age. Hey, which one first? Boy first? Boom, did it.
Right on.
How many years in between them? 3. Got it. Nailed it. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, cool. So that's that. That's hilarious. Where were we at?
Dude, I don't know. I think
Oh, 15 different fighters won. That's when
Yeah.
we got under the coaches. One fighter made his pro debut this year. Mason DeLess finally making his pro debut after a long, storied amateur career. And stay tuned for his next pro fight, which hopefully we'll be getting those papers signed relatively soon. You want to go through some standout records?
Sure. Let's start with the first one I got on the list here, Lucas Siebert. He went 3-0 on the year. He won both a bantamweight and a featherweight amateur title. To get his featherweight title, he had to win over a 6-1 fighter who, in my opinion, is one of the best amateur fighters like there's been, really. You know.
Yeah, and like in our region. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean-
Absolutely.
I mean, Cam Algeier, that's who
Yeah.
he beat. He's been at our gym before. Like, we've seen him firsthand many times.
Dude, I've known this kid since, like, literally, like what I said, a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he's very good, very skilled. It's just, I just think very highly of him.
Exactly, and like that really speaks to that win, because I think Cam is so awesome. You know.
Yeah.
So he has a win by TKO this year, and he has a win by submission in
Yes.
those 3 fights. And he has 2 grappling super fight wins.
Yes.
Also very impressive. At least one of which he was relatively injured for. And yeah, just a great year for him, you know. And I think something else. That's
He also
really cool-
competed at the IBJJF Worlds.
That's right. Yeah. Something that's cool about Lucas is that, you know, last year was the first year that you and I asked the fighters to give us
send us
written goals, and pretty much everything we just listed off there, he wrote down. You know. So I think that's a very powerful thing, and for our fighters, know that we're going to be asking for your goals soon.
Yes.
You want to take the next one?
Yeah, James Padmore. Goat James. 2-0. Both wins by KO/TKO, like finish. You know, a standing knockout in July over another 2-0 fighter, Adam Caldwell. And then a 3rd round TKO by ground and pound over friend of the squad, Chris Hustleton. Yeah, so very strong wins over very skilled opponents. Yeah, I mean, like just a strong year for James.
And that brings his overall record to
4-0,
4-0.
also all by finishes.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive as well. Definitely something to be proud of.
Also, something I think we should mention about James. James works nights, and yet you'll see James at the gym all the time. Sometimes he'll go to work and he'll go straight to the gym in the morning.
Yeah,
right?
and then goes sleeps, comes back to the gym at night,
Yep.
goes to work.
Yep.
Right? So it's like kind of like the same as if like you woke up early in the morning, went to the gym, went to work, and then went back to the gym after work. He
Yep.
does it every
Yes.
day, except his nights is his day and his days his night.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Can I tell a quick story about James? So this unfortunately did not happen this year. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. December show of last year, James wins his second fight. So second overall fight, amateur fight. This was the December Brawl in the Berg, 2022. So he wins by knockout, right? We have like 5 fighters on the card, so he's sticking around. He's watching them, gets dressed. He's like, "All right, coach, thanks for everything you do. Da, da, da. I gotta go." I'm like, "You're not gonna stay and watch the rest of the card. I have to go to work."
Dude.
He fought, won by knockout, and went to work.
Dude, that's so hardcore. I
Like-
love it.
Dude, it's so hardcore in so many ways. Like, first off, I would have called off that night.
Yeah.
Preemptively.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have, like, called it, "Hey, I'm sick." Like, I'd have been like, "Hey, I'm fighting tonight. I'm not coming to workout."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also, the confidence.
That you're not going to get hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, oh, like, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love that.
Like,
I
yeah,
love
dude.
that.
Yeah. And it's like remarkable. Like, it would never have been me.
Yeah.
You know, not that, like, I think there's anything wrong with it. I just think it's such, like, a tough thing that,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't imagine. I'm like, of course I'm not going to work tonight. Like,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. So he was like, "All right, I got to go to work." What?
Yeah. I would have never done that
Yeah.
for the same reason you're saying. Like, I would have never done it because I'm not tough enough, but James is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, so great year, James. Not to
So-
say there's that, like, to dismiss it. Awesome.
Yeah. So,
It's my buddy.
another standout record here. Another James Lido, also 2-0 on the year. He had a win over a tough D3 wrestler,
Yes.
who also comes from a very good gym. I had potential fight of the year, but now officially a fight of the year.
Fight of the year nominee for
nominee.
247.
And under just unbelievable circumstances.
Yeah, honestly, like, I wouldn't have done the fight. If I was in his position. I offered him to not do the fight, and he really wanted to do it. The toughest of toughest circumstances. Just super proud of him. Would have been proud of him either way, whether he won that fight, lost that fight, or
Absolutely.
elected not to take that
100%.
fight. So just taking that fight in itself, just again an example of being tougher than me. To do that, you know, doing what felt right, and then a dominant win in July, like 29-second submission.
Submission.
Uh-huh.
So man, shout out to James. And I mean, just what a good kid, dude. I really like his energy.
Yeah.
I really like James.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
He's always
definitely
going for big throws.
especially like overcoming his extenuating circumstance.
Yeah.
For that. Also in that fight, that particular fight, that's fight of the year. It was fight of the year because of how emotional James fought that fight, right? Like, James, I believe he got 5 or 6 takedowns, got taken down 0 times. The only time he almost got taken down was he went for a double overthrow.
That's right, yeah.
Threw himself to his back.
And still wrestled
Bro, he
up.
kept his feet running.
Dude.
He kept his feet running. And he just ran it over. So, yeah.
Dude, what a wrestling style too. Like,
Yeah.
he's not like a boring, like, oh, I'm just gonna get a single and then like lay on top of you.
No, dude, Las Vegas, dude, he's Las Vegas. Boy, dude, I like. Listen, like, if you haven't watched him wrestle either, dude, he wrestles the same way. He wrestles so much that way that, like, I don't know, but if I was his coaches, I'd be like, "Come on, dog." Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Come on, dog. It's like home run, home run,
Yeah.
home run. And guess what happens if you go for a home run every swing? Sometimes you strike out.
Yeah.
But this boy goes.
Dude, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah, so dude, now we got the explicit version. Shout out to him.
It's our podcast. We can say what we want.
Yeah, we can.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good recap of our team on the year.
Yeah.
I Anything you want to touch on there before we?
Let's just kind of touch on a little bit of these total fight team stats,
yeah.
just for like some fun stuff.
So total fight team, we're talking about what I wrote these stats down, defined as fights, meaning that like you can basically get punched in the head. So the total fight team is all of the striking, Muay
All the
Thai,
Muay Thai and MMA
and
together.
kickboxing all together. So the total team record, 32-20. That makes for 52 total fights.
52 total fights. 53 if you count Hugo's MMA fight.
Correct. Yep. It's a 61.5% win rate, which I think is pretty good.
Solid.
This is a fun stat here. Joao Martinez and Max Jarrell both fought in MMA and striking this year,
as well as
and
Hugo.
exactly, if we count Hugo's Pitt MMA fight, he also fought in both of those disciplines. So not only do we have two sport athletes between Muay Thai and kickboxing, but we also had even more different sports between Muay Thai and MMA. Super cool.
You know what would have been sick if they all did a jiu-jitsu match too.
Oh, that would have been incredible. Yeah, that would have been
Dang.
super cool, man. 3 sport athletes in 1 year. And over the whole fight team, we had 7 AMI titles won.
7 AMI titles won. If you count jiu-jitsu, like a lot of the fighters did do jiu-jitsu. As we said, Lucas did 2 super fights and the IBJJF Worlds.
I believe Tim did high rollers this year, right?
That was definitely
last
last
year?
year.
Yeah.
But I believe Tim definitely did a tournament in the spring because I was like, you have to do a tournament, Brittany competed at the AGF qualifiers. And Will Moriarty definitely did a tournament. I know Max did do an AGF, but I'm like fairly certain it wasn't in 2023. So you suck, Max. Yeah, and I'm sure others competed in jiu-jitsu tournaments as well. Maybe Joao did. I'm not sure. Did he do so I'm not always at the local tournaments, right? Because I'm like the travel coach.
There's just also too many for you to beat everything.
Oh yeah, just like for a little stats on like travel coaching. Yeah, dude. So if you count from August of 2020, August 5th of 2022 to August 5th of 2023, I did 40 weekends away coaching. There's 52 weekends.
Yeah.
So I was only home for 12 weekends, and those 12 weekends, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, stuff where there's not no one's putting events on.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
So yeah. So a lot of travel coaching.
Do you have anything to add onto this, or should we dive into?
So I kind of want to dive into some more stuff. So some jiu-jitsu super fights that I didn't get to touch on. We also had athletes compete in Fight to Win, in which we had 2 black belt wins, Tanner Hall and Logan Stout, who was the main event of that Fight to Win, both with big wins there. And Giancarlo Ordofino also had his debut super fight win there. So, good stuff at that. So that's just like a super fight card that I meant to speak of that I forgot, so I wanted to get that in there.
Right.
So let's touch on some. So the end of the year, we're going to go into some 247 awards. All right. So 247 Fighting Promotions, who holds jiu-jitsu events and mixed martial arts events. They do end of the year awards, which we mentioned to earlier, in which we are the reigning coaches of the year, and us, Stout PGH, the reigning gym of the year. Lucas Siebert won Amateur Newcomer of the Year last year, and Josh Visoki won Knockout of the Year last year. So we have been nominated for some more awards this year. So to let you, the Stout PGH students, become more aware of your teammates in the awards that they are nominated for.
Well, hold on. First off, also, I think we should just say this. This episode's coming out on a Tuesday. You have until...
You have 24 hours
Yep.
to make your votes.
So if you want to vote...
I will have the link in the bio. I'll leave it in the bio. So let's get into it. All right. So
go in order?
No, because I'll say the order that we'll go. I'll do the order in which we're going to go in. So let's start with the Amateur Newcomer of the Year. All right. So we have a chance to be back-to-back champs of this, but obviously the same fighter can't win it twice because you can only be a rookie once. All right. So last year, Lucas Siebert took home the Amateur Newcomer of the Year award, and this year we have our own Max Jarrell, who is nominated for the award as well. Would you like to speak a little bit about Max? I would as well.
Yeah. So again, Max had a Muay Thai fight earlier in the year, and he performed really well in that. He didn't win, but I watched the film on it. I was very happy with his performance. Max is also another one of those guys who's super young. What is he like?
19.
19? Yeah, exactly. So tons of potential there.
Can't drink beers.
Exactly. So Max won his 247 debut, which was also his MMA debut, in dominant fashion.
Yeah. Really dominant.
Which
as dominant as pretty much as dominant as you get without there being a stoppage.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, his striking was just absolutely phenomenal, which made sense because Max has primarily focused over the last however many years on striking. I was and like doing stuff that you generally don't see in first fights, even
Yeah.
for guys who I would say are like good strikers for the first fight. He was levels above that, right?
He really
his
was.
distance management, his feint game, his proactive head movement, his shot selection, just so much that he did well there. It was an absolutely dominant performance. Something else I think that's important there is not only is he a dominant striker, he got a takedown exactly the way that you teach it. He timed it perfectly. Like, couldn't say enough good things about Max's fight. So
Yeah, and yeah, like touching on the takedown, like Max is very well rounded, but if you had to pick where his strength was, it's striking. Shout out to Jonas Rubiano. For that. But Max also cool, calm, and composed in there for a
Yes.
19-year-old. And he lived it, right? Like he had fun in there. There's
fun fact, we didn't give him any water. in
Oh
between
yeah,
rounds.
to spite Jonas. So Jonas is like for some reason Jonas is very thirsty when he fights, and I don't got time for it. Right? Like again, maybe me being a little bit full of myself, but I feel like the information that I am giving you between rounds is valuable, very valuable, more valuable than this sip of water. So Jonas was in a fight in which this actually happened twice. There was a specific one in which he, in my opinion, lost the first round, right? He was fighting a fighter who was longer than him, and Jonas was trying to counter-strike him, and it wasn't working out, right? I believe it was also open stance. So Jonas trying to counter-strike him, it's not working out. I go in there, and I'm like explaining to Jonas that this counter-strike is not working out, boom, 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 and I give him like a plan, right? I give him a set plan. Here goes what you're gonna do this round. You lost that round. Here goes why. Here goes what you're gonna do this round. Da, da, da. And he's like, and like, right at the end, I have not given him water yet because I'm giving him like gold. I'm spitting fire, right? And he's like, can I get some water? And I'm like, water? I'm like, what do you care about water? He's like, it's really hot in here. Dude, I've never felt that in any of my fights. I promise I never was like, hey, it's so hot. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, right? And I'm like, you're gonna do this. And like, there's actually a video of me, of us, like, cause the cage like camera's like panning to us in the corner where I'm walking out, and I'm like repeating what I said. I'm like, and we go down the cage, and Jonas, like, goes and he knocks this guy out in the next 20 seconds, doing exactly what we talked about. So he didn't need water. But Jonas always jokes about that. One time in between rounds, I was slow giving water, or I wasn't pouring it fast enough. And the commission and the referees hate, and rightfully so, when you spill water, because now it's like a slippage mess. And also, like, maybe some people might spill it on purpose to have to clean it up so that way your fighter gets extra time,
or onto your fighter to make them more slick.
yeah. So I'm like, and they're always yelling at me, so I'm giving them water, or I'm giving Jonas water, but it's not fast enough. He goes 2 hands, smash the bottle, right? So it like shoots out or whatever. So I'm like super mad about that. So anyhow, fast forward, Will and I are cornering Max, and Max is like, Max is Jonas's, like, under Jonas's wing. And we're in between the first and second round. Max is just doing so good. My advice is like, hey, dude, make sure you continue to enjoy this, right? Like, you're doing great. You don't need to change anything. Keep up what you're doing. I just want you to soak it in, make sure you're having a good time. Enjoy this experience. Let's not take it for granted. Blah, blah, blah. So we step out, and Will goes, you didn't give him water. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I know. Like, I'm doing it on purpose, right?
And do you remember what happened between the second and third?
That's what I'm
Okay,
getting
go
to.
ahead.
I'm building to it. So then Max has another dominant round. We go back in. I'm like, all right, dude, you're up 2-0, like, clear as day. Pick it up, have more fun. You can be a little more risky, because, like, if you slip, on a banana peel, you're going to be okay, and stuff like this. And he's like, hey, can I get some water? I'm like, no, dude. And he's like, why? And I was like, because Jonas. So he actively was like, no, dog. And he's like, why won't you give me water that and according to Jonas, I'm entitled to in the middle of my fight? Because I'm trying to do an inside joke right now. This is such an important moment to Max. Like he's worked very hard. Because he's been training since he was like at least 15, 16.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like he's been dreaming of this. And like it's his moment. This is very important to him. Da, da, da. And I turned it into a joke. I was like, you can't have water. Well, why? He was like, Jonas.
But that's a huge compliment to Max because, like, would we have done that?
Oh,
when
no.
He wasn't dominating? You know?
No, absolutely. I would not. Like, yeah, no. It was, like, the only, like, moment that you could be in to where you could start to... And also sometimes it's good to joke and, like, lighthearted.
Yeah, exactly. To keep it fun, especially when,
Yeah.
like, that's literally probably the best advice you can give him.
I mean, we've done jokes in corners with other fighters.
Yeah.
Like we've done it with Lucas. You know, in the past we've done it with like AJ and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, even me as a fighter, I would throw jokes out while fighting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
But
fun stuff.
if you guys ever see Jonas just like around the gyms and stuff, just walk up to him very seriously and say, "I'm entitled to that water."
I'm entitled to that water. Yeah. Which is like debatable. All right, moving on to the next category, Fight of the Year, as we mentioned earlier, in which we have nominee James Las Vegas Lito versus Ken Burrs, which was a very exciting fight that everybody in attendance really enjoyed. James Lito coming out the victor with unanimous decision. They both dropped each other. Lito had a lot of high quality or high like excitement takedowns. Yeah, like, you know, he might have shot 2 doubles, but the rest upper body stuff. So a lot of fun there. You know, make sure you're voting away on that. I kind of feel like it's a shoe-in though.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's just
Seems to be
fight.
like a consensus amongst the community, like outside of Stout PGH, that strong Fight of the Year contender.
Yes, I mean, people have been talking about that for being Fight of the Year, like right when it happened.
Yeah, when it happened. And it was on the first card of the year. And a lot of times, like, there's a recency bias, right? And so what happened earlier in the year, like, kind of like the shine wears off, and that kept shine throughout the year. So
also, 247 made that fight free to watch for, I don't know what period of time it is, but if you're getting this on Tuesday, it's probably still available for a little bit. So go check that fight out.
Check it out. Great fight. You'll love it. And then you learn a little bit more about James Lito's situation as well. And you're going to walk away with the utmost respect for the young man. All right. Let's move on to our next category. Let's go to Sprawlenberg Grappling Submission of the Year. Okay, so the 247 hold some jiu-jitsu only cards. There has been... or Jiu-Jitsu Super Fight cards, there have been 3. Sprawlenberg 1, July, that was in July. Sprawlenberg 2 was in October. And Sprawlenberg 3, well, I guess Sprawlenberg, not Sprawlenberg 1, no number until the second.
Right.
Sprawlenberg 3 happened on the same night as Sprawlenberg 19, prior to the card. So there were 4 nominees for Submission of the Year, in which I'm very proud of our team that we are 75% of those nominees. So we have Alex Hudick, who won by a back triangle armbar, one of his specialties. Jaden Pallenbein, who won by an armbar off his back, which honestly, I thought the coolest thing about, my favorite thing about Jaden's match, dude, he hit this super slick elbow pass slide by.
Oh.
Right? And you know I'm partial to that. I'm partial. It was super slick elbow pass slide by early in the match, you know, which kind of like also demonstrated his wrestling abilities. Jaden is a junior wrestling at Bethel Park. One of my good friends, Ty Nauman's the coach there, so I get to keep up with Jaden quite a bit and his going-ons there. And I want to give a special shout-out in regards to Jaden's match there to Brady Joling. Brady Joling, a youth instructor when he's home from school at Stout PGH, primarily the Bridgeville location, but he's looking to helping out anywhere. Came up through our program. I was Brady's coach since he was 8 years old. Tremendous jiu-jitsu athlete in his own right. And then 7th grade came around. I'm talking to his dad, Mike. I'm like, Brady, you got to wrestle, dude. You got to wrestle. Like, if you don't wrestle, I'm going to be upset, right? 7th grade comes, oh, I missed like signups or tryouts or whatever. I'm furious, right? 8th grade comes around, starts wrestling, right? In PA, that is very late to start wrestling in 8th grade. So 8th grade, strong year on the middle school, makes the varsity team as a 9th grader. Very strong year, but like also he was wrestling 106, so that's like it's easier as a 9th grader to make the varsity team at that lightweight class. There's not many upperclassmen. Had a strong year there. Sophomore year, another strong year, kind of like hit a little bit with like the COVID schedule type stuff because that was the year after 2020. Junior year, 4th season of wrestling, qualifies for the PA state tournament, taking 4th in the WPIAL.
Wow.
Yeah, grabs a win while at the state tournament, having only wrestled for 3 seasons prior.
That's unbelievable.
Also, Brady's super young. Like, he graduated at 17 in a sport in which this area, it is common to graduate at 19, right? Like, it's common to like red shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like most people graduate at 8. Like, I turned 18 in December of my senior year, you know? And that was like fairly normal then. Now it would almost be like I would be like one more year, you know? It's just like the way that it seems to be playing out. I don't know if that is, has anything to do with athletics or academics.
It's strange. We didn't have a whole lot of guys, really focused on wrestling at City League. I wonder why that.
Yeah, you probably didn't have too many red shirts, but it's a fairly common thing, especially in Pennsylvania wrestling, to do like a 8th grade red shirt, which now you're gonna have to do in 6th grade because they extend your clock down to 7th grade now. So get those red shirts in early. I do see value in it because, especially an extra year to mature, not just physically but mentally. I do feel like when I graduated high school, I went straight into college. I might have done better had I gone later. A little bit more maturing and stuff. You might get more out of your schooling from that, and maybe more out of your athletic career with a little bit more maturity. But Brady graduated really early, so very young, and then he took 4th at the PA State Tournament. WPIAL finalist, took 4th at the PA State Tournament his senior year, earned himself a Division I wrestling scholarship, and now he wrestles for Davidson University in North Carolina, the Davidson Wildcats, alma mater of Steph Curry. So shout out to Brady. So the reason Brady's getting brought up right now, he coached Jaden in that match. It was Brady and I in the corner, but Brady ran that whole thing. He really helped Jaden a lot in preparation for that match. So I want to make sure that I'm not taking credit. That ain't mine. Although still my credit because I taught Brady how to do that. And then he did it. I'm a coach's coach now. It's amazing. I'm good. All right, so shout out to Jaden on the incredible match. Shout out to Brady. And then last but certainly not least, another nominee for Submission of the Year, Christian Schaefer at Sprawl in the Berg 2 with a heel hook over Jerry Rayburn. Jerry Rayburn, locally known to be a very good grappler, especially in the leg lock area. Christian showing that he is world level in this particular, style. Christian's just another level. And yeah, shout out to Christian on that heel hook victory to get him nominated for Submission of the Year. And again, shout out to all 3 of you guys. Thanks for you. You make us look really good having 75% of the nominees. The other nominee, Max Hansen, who is like absolutely a world-class competitor. I want to talk about Max a little bit. Max trains out of Dante Leon's gym, Adamus Jiu-Jitsu in Toledo, Ohio, part of the Pedigo fighting system. And Max had a super sick black belt year. I hope he doesn't win this Submission of the Year. I hope one of my guys wins it, right? You know what I'm saying? But just Max had a sick year. He had 91 matches this year. I've been following all year, right? Because he's been competing crazy. 91 matches. 80 wins, so only 80 and 11 losses. Dude, high level stuff too. High level stuff. And his submission rate was really crazy high.
So cool.
And it was really fun. I would say this was his rookie year, or his fresh his rookie year of black belt.
His black. Oh, okay.
Yeah. This year, he started running it, competing at everything, and it was really fun to watch. Max do that, especially since he comes and will do some local stuff. You know what I mean? He has in the past refereed some local tournaments. We watched him on Who's Next, which was Flow Grappling's Ultimate Fighter type deal. And then coming and doing the Sprawl in the Berg show, so it makes it easy to follow, especially since he's like Dante's main student, and like Dante, like who doesn't like following Dante? Like Dante, grappler of the year, likely. Not 247, like just period in the world. Okay, cool. So go vote for Alex, Jaden, or Christian. All right, don't vote for Max. He's probably gonna win other awards. He's fine with those. All right, let's move it on. Now, here goes. Let's go to Amateur Fighter of the Year.
Fighter of the Year?
Yeah.
Okay. Who do we got here? We got 2.
50% of it.
Yeah. So,
Thank you, Amateur Fighters of the Year, for, again, making me and Will look good.
So we have James Padmore. We discussed his, standout record already. 2-0, 2 KOs. Like, again, doesn't get much better than that. But right on his heels, Lucas Siebert.
1-0 with 247 this year. Oh, 2-0 if you one jiu-jitsu, 1 MMA.
Mm-hmm.
But 3-0 MMA overall.
Mm-hmm.
2 titles.
Yep.
2 finishes, a knockout and a TKO and a submission.
Mm-hmm.
2 jiu-jitsu super fights. Yeah.
That's a strong
year.
resume,
Strong year. And this is the last chance Lucas has of winning Amateur Fighter of the Year. This is it. It's now or never. Now or never.
Maybe James too,
Maybe James too. Maybe James too.
What do we got left?
So I say we go to Coach of the Year, because I want to finish on that one.
Got you.
On the not Coach of the Year, the other one. I feel like working it up.
Cool. So Coach of the Year.
Your boys right here. Listen to your coaches of the year, defending coaches of the year. Let's make that reigning coaches of the year. Like, click, and subscribe. Let's go. All that needs to be said about that.
Yeah. So, well, actually, one thing about this, and I think this is important to differentiate between what we're about to talk about. I heard the nomination podcast a little bit, and I believe they said that the idea behind this award is supposed to be like development based. So,
okay. Yeah. Like, how did you develop these fighters? Right. Yeah. We have some stiff competition.
We have some great competition. I mean, like, we either personally or at least in passing know everyone on this list, and they're all very talented.
Yeah.
There's no wrong picks here, guys.
No wrong picks, but like if you're watching this, like go pick us, dude.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
With that said, shout out to everyone on this list. You guys.
Yeah. So just run down the list. Give these dudes.
All right. We've got Isaac and Dempsey. What do we need to say about Isaac?
So first off, man, Isaac don't need to be winning no awards. Leave it for us. Like Isaac, you got. You've got everything.
Ascended.
Stop it. Leave us alone. Disqualified. So Isaac's disqualified.
And Dempsey, we talked about he's done a lot of big things grappling this year.
Dempsey's got a lot of stuff going for him. He don't need this.
Dempsey's
Get out of here.
also,
Disqualified.
Down at the gym helping us out a lot. I love Dempsey.
Yeah.
We've got the Indio guys. I say hi to the striking coaches.
Yeah, when I see Danilo, I like to see him. Say hello.
Yep.
Strong team. They had a good year.
Put out high quality guys.
They also do like multiple they got like a lot of. Don't you see them at the Muay Thai events?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see their striking coaches there. They put out great, and it's not like they just put out like MMA style guys. Like they put out good Muay Thai guys too.
Yeah.
They're very talented. And then Chris Williams, who works, in
multiple
gyms.
corners.
He does a lot of the academy guys, factory guys.
On the most recent Brawl in the Berg, he was cornering one of the shop guys as well. So working with multiple fighters from multiple gyms, and in fact, they made the distinction this year that it's like coach trainer of the year, whereas last year you were kind of like attached to the gym. It was like whatever corners they typically see with the gym. And they made that change for Chris because Chris is not necessarily attached to a gym.
Yeah.
Someone must have reached out and gave them that very solid idea.
I wonder who would have done something.
And that person's got receipts. So, just saying. Yeah. So no, Chris had a really great year, and it was very notable as of late because he was in 6 of 8 corners on the most recent Brawl in the Berg. So yeah.
Shout out to all those
right
guys.
there. Now remember, you vote for us, not for them. All right, sweet. And the last award that we're going to talk about this year is the Gym of the Year, in which we are also the defending champs up against some strict competition. We'll go ahead and discuss
Yeah, so
The
that's something else
parameters.
that the 247 guys were talking about with the nominations is that gym of the year, kind of the differentiation, aside from the fact that it's not just coaches that are assigned to that gym, but the other differentiation between gym of the year and coaches of the year is gym of the year is, I believe they said, a little bit more record based and less development based.
Yeah.
So real quick, let's just fly through who's on here. We have Indio at 4-1. We've got the Factory at 5-2. We have the Academy at 6-2, and then we're sitting at 10-3. However,
Not just 10-3 though. So we're 10-3 in MMA, which is like the other schools also have extra stats. I didn't look up their stats, but if we jump into the Sprawl in the Berg as well, we were 13-7 in Sprawl in the Berg which is the submission only grappling super fights, with 9 of those 13 wins coming by submission, and as mentioned earlier, 3 of those 9 submissions are 75% of the submission of the year. So strong year for the team. Good job, everybody, making me proud out here. Yeah. So pretty good
yeah,
record.
pretty good record there. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah. Strong competition. Some tips of the cap here. Maybe something that isn't showing up on the Mat Factory record is, all of our fights are amateur, however.
Yes.
Whereas the Factory is currently producing pro fights within 247 with Patton.
Did Cheyenne fight for them this year?
No, not this year, no.
Okay.
But look for us to have some upcoming. As I said, we just kind of finished sophomore year. Time for some kids to enter the draft. You know what I'm saying? Let's do it. All right. Yeah.
Cool. I think that wraps up most of what we got on here. Is there anything?
I'm pretty satisfied with that wrap up.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So
Good stuff. All right. Well, hey, that's your 2023 in a nutshell. Again, 2024's end of the year show. Expect it to be better, hopefully with even better results, although it's going to be hard to beat, stepping up in competition, everything like that. Heading into 2023, I wasn't aware that I'd be doing a recap show, or maybe I would have done better record keeping. I am somebody who is stats driven.
Yes.
Well, I get excited about stats, so love to look them up, love to keep them. So 2024 just starting off here. Hopefully keep better stats in that 2024 year-end show. Mind-blowing. Maybe we'll get some graphics going. Boom, boom, boom. Make it look like Sports Center or something along those lines. Yeah.
Have to make that happen.
All right. There goes your 2023 recap for Stout PGH. This is Listen to Your Coaches. We'll see you next time.